Perfect timing for Senator John McCAIN to join us. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
John, it's certainly some of the more bizarre times here in the city of Satan, my friend. It is really remarkable. A president of the United States that calls the Arizona law has the potential for abuse. Tell me a law that doesn't have a potential. We have the president of our southern neighbor come to our country and announce his opposition to a law that he clearly has not read, but he joins the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Attorney General of the United States in not having read the Arizona law. And meanwhile, Los Angeles and San Diego, who have no money, are now boycotting.
I know. It's Senator McCain. It's almost ridiculous that we're laughing. I've never seen anything like this. It's complete buffoonery.
I never have either, John. I mean, it is. And by the way, I was having my staff this morning look at your listeners might be interested. Look at the Mexican law on illegal immigration. Look at the Mexican law. It's years in jail.
Let's start with, because this is you were reading my mind. In what world are we having President of Mexico, Felipe Calderon, addressing the joint meeting of Congress, pushing for immigration changes when it's his policies that have been creating the problem in his own country, that have been pushing his people to want to flee? I don't understand this.
And it is a direct responsibility of the federal government, which is what led to the Arizona law. And why is it that Phoenix, Arizona, is the second as far as a kidnapping capital of the world, second to Mexico City? Does that mean that our borders are more secure? That when Phoenix, Arizona is the second in the world? I don't know what it is in Beirut, but it's beyond belief, and I hope that these towns and cities, whoever they are, that are announcing their, quote, boycotts of Arizona, recognize that 30% of our population in Arizona is Hispanic, and if they will be hurting our population, our Hispanic population, as well as the whole state, if they choose to boycott. And I'm hoping that our effort to encourage people to come and visit the most beautiful state in America, to come to Sedona, to go to the Chiricahuas, to visit the old Pueblo, to enjoy all of the great beauties of our state. And I hope that those that had planned on going to San Francisco or Los Angeles would change their plans and come to our state. We welcome them.
Senator John McCain would.
There's so much going on. I'm sorry, John.
No. Well,
one thing to another.
But I think, and I'm incredibly curious to see if you agree with this assessment, because as you're dealing with this on the campaign trail, and you've got talk show hosts and shows like mine that are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, just in what we do. You want to step back and go, why is all of this happening? Why is there so much lunacy going on? Why are the headlines reading like this? Why are we seeing these things? And I keep coming back to one conclusion, and that conclusion is that the liberals in America are confused and befuddled about what they're seeing with this resurgence of conservatism, and they have no other way to respond but by being irrational. This is the only conclusion that I'm coming to, is that you're seeing this gigantic, this Grand Canyon sized rift develop in the country, and people are choosing sides, and you've got one side that's speaking the truth, and the other side is it doesn't know where to go, and it's just ignoring facts.
Exactly, ignoring facts. And it's also, if I could say, you're exactly right, it's also an incredible gap between the liberal media in America, i.e. mainstream liberal media in America, and the American people. I'll bet you that 98% of the reporters that cover this issue are against the law that we passed in Arizona. And the polls show that 60, 70, 80%, depending on how you ask the question, as you know, in national polls, support the law. And many of the states believe that maybe they should have the same law in their states. And again, it's a damning indictment of the federal government's responsibility. And for the president to stand up and criticize the law in Arizona and without acknowledging that we have to do one heck of a lot more to secure our borders so that maybe Phoenix won't be the second most kidnapping city in America, that we won't have 241,000 illegal immigrants apprehended in the Tucson sector, that we won't have over 1.3 million pounds of marijuana intercepted last year in the Tucson sector, and people will have the same security in their homes in southern Arizona that the limousine liberals have in Manhattan and inside the Beltway here in our nation's capital.
I want to switch gears briefly and get to the elections that took place earlier in the week. The narrative in the media has been, there's the voting bloc. America's frustrated, sending a message to Washington. Incumbents better be worried. This is what the media spin has been. Rand Paul making such statements as well. But I'm curious to get Senator McCAIN as one of those individuals who's running for re-election. What are you taking away from the elections this week in regards to your campaign?
I think people of Arizona know me. We're running a very vigorous campaign. The day after I lost the presidential election, I got back to work and been doing it ever since. Look, I'm confident, but I take nothing for granted. I'm working. I got to earn every vote, and it's what you can do and what you will do, whether it be maintaining our military bases and the importance of them, or helping with our economy, or getting the job done to help get people be able to stay in their homes. But let me go a little deeper than that, if I can. That's all good news as far as the elections are concerned. Specter, the defector, is now going to whatever reward he has earned. But the bad news is, for us Republicans, is the race in Pennsylvania. We should have won that race. Yeah. I carried that district in 2008, okay? And so the message of that election, and it overrides all the others, is that we Republicans have got to have a positive agenda, starting, in my view, with a commitment to a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution of the United States. And we cannot just rely on the anti-Obama sentiment out there, okay?
Yeah.
We should not have lost that seat, my friend, and that's the third House race that we have lost that we should have taken. So the message should go out loud and clear to proud conservative Republicans that we better come up with a positive agenda and give a reason for our voters to vote for us as well as against the socialization, the most left-governing administration since Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Well, and I think, too, we talked about this yesterday. We had our own election here with Prop 100, and I know there were a lot of conservatives, anti-tax, anti-big government conservatives who were very sort of confused at the wide margin of which Prop 100 passed. But as we were talking about yesterday on the show, and it plays into what you were just saying, Senator McCain, I think it's the fact that emotions still play a lot into this, and there was not a good a good argument crafted against the raising of the taxes here in Arizona to counter that yes on Prop 100 campaign that took place. And I think that plays into exactly what you were talking about as well. We've got to make sure that we're getting the messages out there clear and concise.
We've got to, and it's got to be positive. We will do, and this time we will keep our word, and one of the biggest issue is spending. How are we going to stop the spending? Do you know that the federal government has doubled in size since 1999? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Doubled. Do you know that the national debt just went over $13 trillion? I'm sure you've seen my favorite bumper sticker. Please don't tell President Obama what comes after a trillion.
Yeah.
That's what. But the spending and deficit, I think, is still immigration is certainly the hot button issue right now. But I think overall nationally, spending and the deficit. For the first time, the American people are deeply concerned about what we're doing to the next generation of Americans and the generation after that.
Senator McCain, do you have time for one more quick question?
Sure. Could I just mention one thing?
Absolutely.
We're going to have a quote, emergency supplemental to pay for a whole bunch of things. Senator Coburn, I, and a number of others, and John Kyle, we're going to insist that that be paid for. Now, we're going to be accused then of being cruel, that there won't be these benefits, that will be cut off. You know, you heard it last time we tried this. But at some point, we've got to pay for what we're spending.
The last thing I want to talk to you about, I'm going to switch gears just because this news has been breaking, and I know that you've got quite a bit of knowledge on this. But accused of the torpedo attack on the South Korean warship, North Korea is threatening all-out war. What's your level of concern over this accusation now? Them saying that North Korea, Pyongyang, sunk one of their ships.
I'm very concerned about it. The options are limited. The North Koreans still have huge amounts of artillery based on the border that could set Seoul on fire. Eventually, they could be obviously. They would not prevail, but initially they could cause great difficulties. The key to it is China, John. China is the only country that has great influence over them. Korea should have been reunited a long, long time ago. And look, if anybody who believes in socialism, look at those two countries, same group of people, same race, same ethnicity, etc. South Korea is now one of the world's booming economies. North Korea is mired in the depths of poverty, oppression, repression, cruelty, etc. I think obviously we need to go to the UN and to try to get more sanctions against North Korea, but our options are limited. But the country that can really affect North Korea is China. All they'd have to do is cut off their aid to bring North Korea into line. They don't want to do that because they would be worried about a flood of North Korean refugees into China. But this is a dangerous rogue regime. The dear leader there are many reports of his illness. There's questions of secession after him. And this is a very volatile region. It is matched by the volatility of the Iranian situation, which still we are now going to enact toothless sanctions, which will not deter the Iranians from in their inevitable now, it seems to me, progress towards acquisition of nuclear weapons, unless something is drastically different.
Senator John McCain, thank you so much for calling in today. I know we don't have time to get to it this morning, but I know that you've been calling for increased National Guard on the border. We're all waiting to find out if they respond finally.
Let's hope they finally will. They said they've been working night and day to find challenges to the Arizona law, but they can't, since I don't know how long, determine whether we're going to send the Guard to the border. Yeah. That shows you their priorities.
Yes, yeah,
thanks, John.
Certainly does.
Keep telling the truth.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks. Bye.